Well, so I don't know if Diane told you that the Climate Reality Project as a whole, we all, like you guys did too, because you're in the Sierra Club, right?
Yeah. Yes.
We all worked so hard to pass the Inflation Reduction Act. So now, our goal is to get people to actually take advantage of it. Because I think the more people that do, the stronger it's going to be, the less likely it'll be subject to, partisan destruction. So we started putting together this, we thought, let's start educating people. Climate Reality National did a whole training. But then when we really started looking into it, we realized, wow, this is like a very complicated topic. So we ended up creating this whole slide deck that's really like it's really just an annotated set of links. So it can serve, I think, for anybody living in New York State for whichever topic that they want to pursue. There's, lots of resources there. So we just tried to make it more navigable for people.
Good.
And then Diane connected with you guys. And then, so Diane and I are just doing a kind of a modified excerpt of what the overall deck is, but we'll give you the whole deck and then everybody can have all the links.
Okay.
We're incredibly.
Also, just so you know, we're recording this tonight too. Okay.
Okay, great.
Hey, Valdi.
Hi.
Hi, Valdi. So I super hope that my dogs don't start barking in the middle of this, but I'll do my best.
Okay.
We're all used to that after 4 years of Zoom.
I know it.
Yeah,
So
we're still Zooming.
I logged on to Zoom and it said, "Oh, installing updates." It's like somebody knows when I'm going to do a presentation. Let's install updates and maybe lock you out. So,
Diane, do you want to see if you can share?
Sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that too. So
I'm very conscious of the clutter behind me. So while you're sharing, I'm going to just go pick up my clutter. Hang on.
I just did the same thing.
I just made Diane co-host.
There we go. Now I'm in.
So she should be able. Yep, I see you coming in.
There we go. There are the charts.
There we go. That's great.
Oh, you guys go back a ways. Or the Climate Reality Project does, I should say.
Well, I do too.
Yeah.
Oh. Maura, where are you located?
I am I'm in Albany. Where are you?
Oh, okay. Binghamton.
You're in Binghamton, okay. And Valdi, aren't you near, where are you? Oh, you're in Endicott, okay.
Yes, I live in Endicott, and I'm the chair of the Susquehanna group of Sierra Club, and we have territory that ranges all the way from the westernmost county, which is called Tioga County, through to Sullivan County in the east.
Wow. Does that share a border? Does Sullivan County go all the way to the western edge?
Well, there's 6 counties. So it's Broome County is the next one east. And then, oh boy, we got parts of Delaware, parts of Otsego County. I think maybe part of Cortland County too, if I'm not mistaken.
Shenango.
Oh, Shenango. That's it, not Cortland. But it's hard to keep all that in your head.
Yeah, certainly is.
Oh, someone else named Sierra Club Susquehanna just joined us.
That's me. I'm changing it.
Oh, okay. Hi, Joanne.
Hi.
Yeah, you and I both come in that way.
Yeah, probably because we were a host at one point.
Yeah.
I got to print out this meeting notice because I just got off a long phone call with our auto insurance. I was trying to set up a new policy, or not a new policy, but just change the policy, and it just went on much longer. I thought it was going to be like 20 minutes. and it's more than an hour already. So I'm a little discombobulated at the moment. I just gotta print this meeting notice out so I have the bio in front of me. I never printed it, so I'll be back. I just gotta go downstairs to the printer and get this.
Sounds good.
That's part of my duties.
Joanne, I don't know if we've crossed paths before. We must have been on some call somewhere. Where are you located? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm in Endwell.
Oh, okay. I'm in Conklin.
You know, I have to say one of the beauties of Zoom really has been that don't you meet a million people you never meet otherwise? It really has been a huge silver lining to the whole pandemic.
It has its advantages for sure.
Yeah. Hi, James.
Hi,
Hi, James.
just getting set up.
We'll give you a little time.
Jim, you've been recruited to the EMC, have you? I thought I saw
Oh,
you.
have I been recruited?
Have you been recruited?
Wanted to find out if they knew what they were doing.
And what was your assessment?
Well, their mission statement says they're set up to advise municipalities on how to go forward with green initiatives. I didn't see a lot of that, but I did hear a lot of people report on what other groups they were affiliated with were doing.
Yeah. Did Jillian, did you talk to Jillian at all about kind of the transition we've been going through?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
Maybe, yeah, maybe at another time you and I can chat and I'll kind of fill you in on our journey.
Okay, well, I put my neck in the noose to have some responsibility for the Sierra Club's Community Advocates program, and this is going to be an attempt to not leave any money on the table from the IRA and other federal money, and try to find municipalities that can use the money effectively. And so EMC was involved in some of that. And of course, I know Adam and Chris Berger are very much involved in those kinds of things. So some of the individuals are.
I imagine that I think wasn't Laura saying, Diane, Laura's a person we work with who also works with Sustainable Saratoga. I think the city of Saratoga Springs actually hired someone to deal with a lot of the, sort of contracting and making sure that the city can, fully take advantage of everything. So it does seem like there's going to be a big learning curve. Hi, Luca.
Yeah, it's basically the job of a grant writer, I think.
Of a what?
A grant writer.
Yes, agreed.
Totally.
Yeah,
So we're waiting for the RFPs.
Yeah. I met someone the other day who was an experienced grant writer, and I said, "Oh, you're in demand. Everybody wants."
That does sound just like the job from hell, though, if I'm being honest. It doesn't really sound like that much fun. Essential,
Well,
but
I have enjoyed it.
oh, have you really?
Yeah,
Boy,
haven't done it for a while.
in this world, huh?
Basically building a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to supply the pieces so it's easy for them to say yes.
Yes. And I think, Jim, if you're in process already, you've got a better chance than if you're just making it all up. I don't mean making,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that I think those smell bad right from the start.
Yeah.
throw in the correct jargon and hope for the best. No, you gotta know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think people who are new to it think that you can start from scratch, and that hasn't been my limited experience.
Hmm.
Years ago, I used to have a job that was funded by Title I. So each spring they would formally pink slip me, and then I would need to write my grant to fund my position again. And I always got funded. It never was a problem, but it was extremely motivating to write a good grant. Either that or find another job.
Oh, that is just so awful though to have to do.
Yeah.
Meetings start, but we're chatting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me for a minute, I'll be right back.
Can you text Krista, let her know what's going on?
The lady is calling her.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's see. We're still a couple of minutes away from 7. So we'll give people a little more time. Scott, if you could do a favor and when the time comes, please let people know where to meet for the Riverbank
Riverbank
cleanup
cleanup?
Saturday morning.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I don't have that in front of me. I know it, I think it's at 9 a.m., but I believe it's near the
Yes,
north side of the Washington Street Bridge, the old pedestrian bridge,
well, the south side.
south side. Oh, I'm sorry, south side, south side.
That's all right.
Okay, my head is just scrambled. All right, very good. So how are things in the Albany area, Maura?
Well, they're pretty good. Pretty good. Yep.
That's good.
Yep. Always a lot happening in Albany, I'll say that.
Yeah, we need things to happen faster though, which I think you know what I'm hinting at.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. And the Public Service Commission hearing that happened, I think it was this past Thursday or Friday, I can't remember now, but that was quite amazing. Some of the things they said. And I'm talking about the first part of the hearing where they denied the $12.5 billion increase request.
Were they doing public comment then, or no? That was just a hearing.
No, it was their own Public Service Commission members that were basically explaining to the public what their thinking was and their rationale to prep people for the decision that was to come, and the decision was unanimous. So, yeah.
I feel like I personally need a little help, like understanding that whole story. I mean, I kind of get the basics, right? That they were looking to get more money for their projects, right? Than they had.
Yeah, basically they wanted more than double what the contract was signed for, and they were asking ratepayers to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's difficult no matter which way the decision goes. If you're worried about the climate action in a hurry, then saddling it on the ratepayers might have been the right decision. But then the problem is that do the upcoming contracts, do any of them hold water? If somebody complains that inflation has gone up and then they want to open it up again for requesting more money, then they got a precedent that says, oh, well, you know, the PSC approved a huge increase before, why wouldn't they do it again? So it's just weird.
Yeah.
So where does it stand now, Valdi?
Well, what would happen now is the companies that sign these contracts to build renewable energy, most of the ones that are complaining the loudest are the offshore wind companies. And so they're going to have to assess, is it feasible to still go ahead? Are they going to make enough money? Is the project justified at the rates they agreed to in terms of what they could sell the electricity, that they would generate? And if not, then they would, basically default on their contracts. There's probably some penalty payment. And then NYSERDA is prepared to expedite requesting, proposals for new contracts again. So, what expedited means, does that mean a few years? Does it mean a few months? I doubt it's a few months. And then the question is, is it a year, 2, 3, 4, who knows? So it's maybe good in the long run, but in the short run, it's gonna hurt things probably.
I do feel like it kind of translated. I did see a lot of sort of commentary from people who are probably inclined in this direction anyway, but they were saying, oh, this is proof that renewable energy is just never going to be reliable. And it was very, very unfortunate.
That's the thing. In the long run, if you don't put it on the backs of ratepayers, this relatively large increase, which per month it wouldn't have been huge, but when the second decision was already double digits, adding this extra thing for renewable energy, then it's instant political ammunition to say just what you said, that,
Yep.
oh, we can't afford renewable energy and these greenies are just, they're nuts that they expect people to pay this. And it's so anyway, I'm hoping that they find another way to pay for it. And luckily, supposedly the newer contracts have an inflation adjustment clause built into the contract. So we shouldn't run into this for newer contracts, but I don't know when they started putting that in. So I don't know the details on that. But anyway, now it's 4 after 7. So I'm going to say it's probably time to start this meeting. Looks like we have, what have we got? 14 people, I guess. So thank you people for attending. Welcome to our monthly general membership meeting of the Susquehanna Group of Sierra Club. Maybe you can start recording, Scott, if you haven't. Oh, you already are. Okay, very good.
Yeah, we are.
Sorry. All right. So again, welcome to the general membership meeting of the Susquehanna Group of Sierra Club. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your interest. And I hope that you find our meetings informative. And if you do, if you're not a member, please consider joining to become a member, because that does help our funding and it helps fund activities at the local level, at the state level, which is called the Atlantic chapter, and the national level. The Sierra Club does a lot of good work. They do a lot of, lawsuits too, to try to force things to happen that we want to see happen, or stop things that, shouldn't be happening. And we also do a lot of advocacy to help lobby for passage of needed legislation. So I just wanted to remind people of that this Sierra Club isn't just about fun. It's also about serious matters that we do need, activism and more people to help contact their elected officials, their appointed officials, let them know that you care about the climate, that you care about protecting the environment. Because if we don't let them know, they figure that doesn't matter. And they do count phone calls, they do count emails, they do count letters. All of this matters. So thank you for bearing with me to allow a reminder about this. Scott, you want to let people know about this upcoming riverbank cleanup, which is an annual event that gives you instant feedback, and you can feel better at the end of the day and see, your effort in terms of picking up trash and stuff along riverbanks in Binghamton.
Yes, so Saturday is the date, but it may change to Sunday depending on the rain forecast. But we are cleaning up around Confluence Park, and then the South Side Park just across the Washington Street pedestrian bridge as well. So it's a great spot to be spending a nice Saturday morning at. If you're interested, let me know, please. I will inform all the people who have signed up. The date gets changed, and we'll be meeting at 9 o'clock on the south side of the bridge. That's Conklin Avenue. There is parking along Conklin Avenue. Shouldn't have any problem on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning getting a spot there to park. And I expect it will take maybe the better part of 2 hours, depending. We don't know how much we're going to be picking up yet, but anyways, we hope to get the place looking nice and clean after we're done.
Yeah, and
Got it.
based on past experience, I would recommend you wear something that you don't mind getting muddy for your shoes, because the riverbanks are going to be muddy. We've had a lot of rain, and maybe you might want to bring another pair of shoes to change into when you get back to your car. That might be helpful to you. So it's just some tips, and maybe bring some work gloves too. And I think garbage bags will be provided. Isn't that correct, Scott?
Yes.
Okay, good. Very good. All right, thank you, Scott, for organizing that. Scott is our co-chair, co-chair of Susquehanna Group of Sierra Club.
Vice chair.
Vice chair, sorry.
That's
Okay,
all right.
vice chair. Yes. Okay.
You're the chair, Baldy.
I knew that sounded funny. My brain is still a little scrambled. Otherwise, the only other announcement I have is not crystal clear yet. We are trying to set up meeting space for in-person meetings again, and we don't know if that's really going to come to fruition soon enough, but we're hoping that it will happen by November 14th. That's what we're trying to have our next meeting November 14th, and that's 1 week earlier than we would normally have it. Typically, we have these meetings on the third Tuesday of the month, except for a couple of months we take a break in the summer. But the third Tuesday happens to be 2 days before Thanksgiving, and I'm going to be traveling. Other people, I'm sure, will be traveling too. So it's really not going to work out all that great. So we're going to have it on the 14th, Tuesday before Thanksgiving week. And if it isn't in person, we will again have it by Zoom. And if it is in person, we'll let people know where it is. We've got 2 places that it's narrowed down to, and we're trying to sort that out still, but it's close, but it's not a done deal yet. And it'll be on our website. We'll also let people know by email like we usually do. And other than that, I think if you have ideas for an essay, we will be publishing another edition of our newsletter coming up. So please think of that. And if you do come up with something, please send it to us. I don't know what the best way to submit that is, but if you email us.
Send it to Jim Taft.
Jim Taft. Yeah, I don't know if he wants his email in public though, because this is being recorded. So
Yeah, you can send it to the group's email, and Joanne will forward it to me.
yeah, that's the safest way. So we don't have to talk about people's emails in public. Our email is on our website. So it's also, I think you can get to it from our Facebook page too, I believe. And we do have notices on Facebook too. So if you're on there, please follow us on Facebook. That helps too. So with that, does anybody else have any other announcements that they would like to make? Anything awful happening or good happening in the area? Oh, Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, are there going to be any calendar sales this year?
Oh, good thing you brought that up.
Yeah, the calendars are actually in.
Oh,
And we'll be, I guess the next newsletter, we'll put a blurb in there, Jim, on how to purchase them.
Yeah, well, the next newsletter comes out in December, so it
Okay, so we'll send
might
an
be a
email.
little bit. Yeah, that would be better.
And we probably should put it on our website too.
Thanks.
Yeah, very good.
And just to explain, the cost to us has gone up quite a bit. So we will be raising the cost this year to, I believe we said $20 a calendar. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Did I say that 18?
I don't remember what the amount was, but I think, didn't you say it's only going up like $5 or something?
Yeah, I think we charged 15 last year, so I think we're going to go up to 20 because of the cost to us. I'm
Yeah,
not
but-
sure. We'll have to check my notes.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think it's 18, but
Yeah, I think you're right, Scott.
Yeah, I think last month, I think you said 18, I think.
Yeah.
When,
Which is
I
less
think Scott
than
is
Sierra
right.
Club National. We're
yeah,
charging
they're
less than-
20.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So anyway, that'll be in whatever messaging that Joanne sends out. So we don't have to, worry about that tonight. But anyway, again, thank you to Diane Stefani, who basically, when I saw her in person at a Binghamton 2 Degrees event on a, it was a climate art related event, well, way back, I guess it was August. She suggested maybe doing this presentation, and I'm certainly happy that she agreed to do that. And also, she is joined tonight by Maura McNulty. Diane Stefani is the co-chair of the Climate Reality Project for the Finger Lakes chapter. Did I say that correctly? Very good. Okay, and then Maura McNulty is, I believe, the chair for the Albany area. Is that right? Okay, very good. All right, so tonight's presentation is going to cover the Inflation Reduction Act, a three-step home electrification process, as well as what incentives are available from the Inflation Reduction Act and from New York State that can be combined to help you transition your living space and your mode of transportation to be based on renewable energy and even to reduce your energy usage. So just to give you an idea of Diane's background, Diane Stefani is a retired human resources leader. She says that throughout her career, she found leading teams and individuals through large-scale change to be the most rewarding challenge. Guiding 25,000 people through organizational culture change was the epitome of this work. She has been an active community volunteer and still is. She draws strength and optimism from her fellow volunteers. She's a trained Climate Reality Project leader and co-chair of the Finger Lakes Greater Region chapter. She serves on the executive committee of Tier Energy Network, which is a regional network of industry, community, and higher education representatives supporting the development of energy strategy for New York State. She taps into her professional background by focusing on workforce development strategy and implementation for clean energy jobs. She is also a Cornell Cooperative Extension Energy Navigator, and is the former chair and is an ongoing member of the Broome County Environmental Management Council. And that's the organization that basically coordinates the riverbank cleanup that's coming up this Saturday, the 21st. Diane and her husband love roaming the public lands of upstate New York. They adore their 2 adult children, their families, their friends, and all the associated dogs, cats, and other creatures. And I thank Diane Stefani again, as well as Maura McNulty. And Maura McNulty is the mother of 2 amazing and wonderful daughters. She was a teacher for almost 35 years. As much as she loved that work, she stopped in 2022 so that she could focus full-time on the climate emergency. And I give you kudos for doing that, because that's a big step. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. She did the Climate Reality Project training in 2020, and She says it was a transformative experience for her because it provided such a solid science-based background on climate, and because through Climate Reality Project, she's had the chance to work with some of the most capable, warm, fun people that she's ever met. She's been worrying about the climate since she was 8 years old, and what she's learned over the past several years is that the best antidote to climate anxiety is climate action. She's lived right in the Westcott, I'm sorry, never mind, I'm gonna skip that part. So bravo. I'm super worried about climate too. And the more I learn about it, the more worried about I become, but that's what drives me and keeps me going too. So thank you to Diane as well as Maura for joining us and for agreeing to do this presentation tonight. Go ahead.
Oh, Autumn.
Who's that good-looking guy?
I think that was my husband and one of our dogs.
Oh, okay, I might have been just referring to the dog. I don't know.
I won't tell him. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you, Maura.
Okay. Is this in present mode right now? Or is this?
You
It
can see
is, but
the
it's not
file
in
header.
slide.
There we go. All right.
Oh, there we are.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Climate Reality Project was one of many national groups, including you guys, of course, to work on passing the IRA. And now our goal is to get as many people as possible to weatherize, electrify, and power it all with renewables. The New York State Coalition created a really comprehensive slide deck that really serves as a fully annotated set of links, because when we decided to take up public education and help people understand what's available in New York State, we realized it was really, really complex. So what we're showing you today is really a modified excerpt from that deck. You'll get, we'll be sending you a clickable PDF to the full deck that has a full set of resources. So don't worry about taking notes. A lot of what we created, really, we tried to create a deck that didn't ask people to buy into concern about climate. We really tried to focus on savings, health, and comfort as good enough reasons to electrify, so that we didn't lose people who were reluctant to approach us from a climate standpoint. But since you guys are fellow travelers, we do have some more climate related content in this deck. All right, next slide, Diane. All right, so with this slide, we want to draw your attention to 3 different ideas. And the first really involves a recognition that the world as a whole, as we know, is changing really rapidly. And as for technological reasons, and I know we're all following what's happening in the Middle East, there's a lot happening. But as the impacts of the climate change accelerate, countries and entities like the US are competing intensively to build energy systems and the infrastructure everybody will need to survive and thrive in the 21st century. And so on the macro level, that's what's happening globally. And that's where the 3 uncles come in. You'll see Uncle Bill, Uncle Chip, and Uncle Ira here. And they are designed to work together to transform the US economy. The CHIPS Act brings semiconductor research and production back to the US. And the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act rebuilds bridges, roads that have gotten pretty shabby. And it also invests in much more climate-friendly public transportation, a national network of EV charging stations, and broadband for currently underserved areas. I know that probably you guys, like I, have been talking to lots of people about the need to transform our economy. And what I've found a lot is that people have a lot of concerns about the size and reliability of the electrical grid as we switch to renewables. And the reality is a lot of our grid was built in the 60s and 70s. And according to the White House, 70% of our current electricity grid is more than 25 years old. So when people raise those concerns, to some degree, they're right. It isn't as reliable as it could be. And it's aging. So at this point, we can patch up what we've got, or we can build a more sophisticated grid for the future. And I think that's an important message to get out to people, that that's really what we're about. The bipartisan infrastructure law invests $13 billion to expand our national grid, electric grid, and to make it more responsive and less susceptible to the extreme weather events we unfortunately are going to be seeing more of. And the goal is to build a storage and transmission system that can move the right amount of renewable energy where it is, where we need it, and when we need it. And then finally, we have Uncle Ira. And IRA's goal is to incentivize everyone, individuals, small businesses, nonprofits, houses of worship, major corporations, everyone, to electrify everything and to power that electricity with renewable resources. It's a $369 billion carrot. There are no sticks, and it has taken off like gangbusters. Again, you've probably seen that in the news as well. So combined, these three laws are going to transform the energy system and our economy, and they're going to create good jobs, and they're going to clean up the air we breathe, and to help mitigate, obviously, some of the climate change that we're facing. And in a bit of good news for our kids and grandkids, other countries are also racing to make the same kinds of upgrades. So tonight, we're here to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act specifically, and how its many provisions can help us green our spaces and transportation. So here's a second big idea of this slide. We're going to talk about all the incentives and rebates, or coming rebates at the federal level, but we're going to talk about how to combine those incentives and benefits with New York State legislation, and also with those of our utilities. And then the last big idea of the slide is really related to the American flag. And because I'm old enough to remember that, there was a time when we thought of ourselves as, innovators and capable and competent. And I feel like somewhere we've kind of lost that. And I know Diane and I and some others of us in the Climate Reality Project have talked a bit about the importance of kind of reclaiming our flag and saying, you know what, we really actually can do this. So you want to go to slide 3, Diane? Slide 3, the takeaway here really is to, reinforce an idea that you're probably already familiar with, which is that emissions from methane-fired boilers and furnaces and stoves and fossil fuel furnaces, all those emissions involve nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, obviously CO2, methane, nitrous oxide, VOCs, and all kinds of other things. And that we are discovering in the past 10 years, increasingly research is showing that that those emissions within our homes when we're burning these fossil fuels are actually creating a pretty toxic indoor pollution problem for ourselves. And unlike the outdoor pollutant levels, which are regulated to some degree by the EPA, a lot of this is not really regulated yet. So that's something that we're really trying to come to terms with. And then also the reality that appliances that are use methane gas are leaking, constantly leaking methane gas that's unburned, and that includes benzene, which is a known carcinogen. So the key takeaway here is that increasingly we're recognizing that the climate issue is happening inside our houses and outside our houses at the same time. So Diane, next slide. All right, the takeaway from this slide is that methane emissions aren't just a problem when we burn the gas in our houses, right? There are fugitive methane emissions from extraction, from processing, to storage, to piping long distances. There are 3 million miles of methane gas pipeline, according to the US Energy Information Agency in this country, and that involves a lot of leaking. And then once that stuff gets piped into urban distribution infrastructure, there's a lot of leakage that happens there, particularly in the east, and particularly in the Northeast, because that's where that infrastructure tends to be oldest. So takeaway number 1, there's a lot of leakage from beginning to end. Takeaway number 2 is that the EPA, to some degree, may be underestimating the degree of fugitive methane leaks that are happening. And this, if you know, we don't need to chew all the way through this because you can go back and look at this at your own, but there are a lot of studies that are indicating that there's actually even more fugitive leakage than we thought. And that is a problem because methane has about 82 times the warming impact of carbon dioxide for the first 20 years. It drops over time, but methane is an extremely potent greenhouse gas for decades after release. So, you know, there's nothing that fossil fuel companies would like more than to convince people that somehow methane gas is natural or cleaner. And, you know, I fell for that myself when I bought this house 30 years ago. I moved in from the country. We had been heating in oil. I thought I was doing this like this great thing for the environment by coming and burning like quote unquote natural gas. But, you know, as you guys know, the U.S. energy system is going through the biggest transformation we've had in half a century. And that's partly because coal plants, right, are aging out and going offline and being retired. So now the choices that we make right now, whether we go with renewables or whether we double down on methane gas, that is really going to impact how we're generating energy for the next 30 to 50 years, because that's how infrastructure works. And that's why we're seeing the fossil fuel industry creates so much intense pressure and, you know, frankly, propaganda around the need to build out fossil fuel infrastructure. They're trying to lock us in for this whole next generation. I think we need to educate people about the big picture of methane as a really powerful greenhouse gas from extraction right through to our kitchen stoves and furnaces. And let's see. And then next slide, Diane. And Diane we'll get into some of the ways that some of these programs can help us shift off that. So this slide is from the Department of Environmental Conservation. It was published in 2022, and it's based on measured greenhouse gas emissions from 1990 to 2020. And the takeaway here is that fully 73% of our New York State emissions come from building, transport, and basically the electricity we use to power our appliances. So bottom line is we can't solve the climate crisis without engaging people really house by house to make this change. And that's particularly true because if US homes were a country, it would be the 6th largest emitter after all of Germany's emissions combined. So our households alone are spewing huge quantities of greenhouse gases. And that gets us to slide 6, Diane. So here is the takeaway here. Everybody needs to weatherize first, right? Because the best way to save energy is to not use it in the first place. So built right into weatherization is just the huge plus that will just plain be using less. Now, if someone installed a methane furnace last year, it doesn't make sense to expect them to replace it this year. But as I say at Rewiring America, when it dies, electrify. But in the meantime, it can only help to weatherize because in any case, that's the best way to maximize the efficiency of whatever system you're using. The purple items at the bottom, you'll see community solar, switching over to EVs, having an EV charging system. All of those things can be done really at any point. They're not 9, 10, and 11 because they should come last. They're just there because really it depends on everybody's individual situation. And then you want to go to slide 7, Diane? So again, free energy audit. One of the reasons I personally love this slide is that, you know, I was never a big HVAC person until this IRA thing came along. And now I'm learning all kinds of things about the house I've been living in for 30 years that I never knew before. So it's been quite the education. And so when you have time to go back and take a look at this slide, I do think it really illustrates, you know, all the different ways that your house is just like bleeding out its energy. And then the other thing that I think is a huge plus here is that you'll see this link because everybody, no matter what your income level, is entitled to a free energy audit in New York State. I had it done. The person who came and did the energy audit really liked him. And he offered me a package for insulating. And then I just went through him, but I could have taken exactly that audit and gone to another contractor had I chosen to. But I will say, I cannot believe the difference it made in terms of what my energy bill looked like. The one thing that we want to emphasize over and over again is that all roads in New York State lead through NYSERDA. These links, NYSERDA does a really pretty good job keeping things updated and providing the most accurate information. And it also, will help you understand how the IRA fits in. So we tell people, pay attention to NYSERDA, pay attention to Rewiring America, pay attention to your community energy hub. Those are all excellent resources. And that although everybody gets a free energy audit, not everybody gets free weatherization, right? But there are a tremendous number of programs in New York State that are really designed to help people of low and middle income finance through low interest loans and things like that, but also to just plain get that work paid for if they can't afford it. And then next slide in. Okay, heat pump fact sheet. One conversation I've had with people over and over again is they say, well, I've heard that they don't work, or, my parents put one in 12 years ago and it didn't keep the house warm. And so, like I think all of us, people kind of get this set idea in their heads. And so I feel like I spend a lot of time letting people know that modern cold climate air source heat pumps work really well in cold climates. I have a friend who lives in Maine, and they switched out and they use a air source heat pump. And when I asked them about it this summer, when I was visiting, they said they couldn't believe they'd waited so long to switch over. So they are, they really do work. There's a website that'll be linked in the deck to help you see, the whole list of how these things are rated. So think about that for a minute. When you hear people say, oh, they don't work, they do work. But who doesn't want you to believe that is fossil fuel companies, right? The other thing that's, I think, worth pointing out here is that for people who are looking at trading out furnace and AC, and water heating, the beauty of heat pumps is that it heats and it cools. So you're not putting 2 units in, you're putting in 1. And that water heating is also can also be part of that picture. So let's see, you want to go on, Diane? So we call this the Happy Contractor page. And it's one of my favorite pages. And again, here's why. Because that link where it says you can find the list of certified contractors here, that is, I think it's one of the best links in this whole deck. Because one thing that I think happens is if you use a contractor that is not NYSERDA certified, you are going to get a very different story than you might get from a contractor who is certified. It's a lot of work. I was speaking to a contractor a couple months ago, and he said it was a huge amount of work to get certified through NYSERDA. So I'm going through this process myself of converting to an air source heat pump. And I have another friend who's doing it. So I sat in on all of her contractor meetings too. And the difference between people who are certified and not certified is gigantic. The other thing that I learned too is that if you're talking to a contractor whose entire business model depends on installing fossil fuel systems and then selling you a 10-year maintenance contract on that fossil fuel system, that contractor is not going to talk to you about switching over to air source heat pumps, because that's not what their business model is. And I experienced that personally, and I watched a friend of mine experience that personally as we went through. Can't say it enough, NYSERDA certified, really important. Okay, next slide, Diane. We don't want to leave renters out. Obviously, a lot of these programs are geared towards homeowners, individual single occupancy homeowners, as well as landlords and things like that. But if you are a renter, do not despair. Number one, there's a lot of programs that you can direct your landlord to. Number two, there are incentives that are highlighted in this presentation that do apply to you. And three, there are an increasing number of portable equipment. So you can get induction cooktops. We're going to be modeling those at a lot of our tabling events now because they're cheap and they work crazy well. And you can also get way more efficient window ACs, and you can also get heat pump window units as well. So there is a lot there for renters as well. And then Diane, next slide. Oh, I think we missed one, didn't we? Do we have slide 11? Ah, there we go. Okay. Ooh. Oh, there we go. All right. So I hate when people read slides to me, so I'm not going to read these slides to you. But I'll just highlight a couple of things. All these the credits are in place through 2032. They don't go away the following tax year, but the way the law is currently structured, some of the incentives will decrease after 2032. There are annual limits, but a lot of them reset every year. There's no limits on the total federal income tax credits given. So, you could redo your entire house and electrify the whole thing, and you're not going to really hit a ceiling. The other thing I would say to you, though, is be sure that you talk to a tax advisor. When I was working with the contractor this summer in the process of selecting that contract, I actually called my tax person just to make sure that she kind of had her head around some of this stuff too. So it's really important because it's really complicated. I did one of these presentations 2 or 3 weeks ago, and a person raised her hand and she said, I'm a landlord. I own a 2-family unit. I like to keep all the utilities separate, and I have a boiler with oil. And she said, what do you recommend I do? And my answer was like, I have no idea. Like that, you really got to talk to your accountant. You really got to talk to your contractor, because if you show me 100 houses, I'm going to show you 100 completely different houses. It's amazing how different the pictures are. Regarding rebates, I think Diane's going to get a little bit more into that regarding cars, but the rebates are really being fed through the Department of Energy, and then that in turn is being distributed to each state, and each state is writing its own individual regulations. So NYSERDA will be working on that, and a lot of that information will start to become available in 2024. And then the rest of this, I think you can you can look at at your leisure. Did I leave anything out important before I switch off to you, Diane?
No, I think you're good.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mary. All right. So I'm going to now do a little bit deeper dive into the rebates and incentives. And I'm just going to reiterate a couple things. One is I'm not a tax accountant. I took 2 accounting classes back in 1982. And none of them had anything to do with taxes. So you don't want to take tax advice from me. And as Maura said, same for her. But with that said, we certainly can talk about the incentives under the IRA. We can talk about the 2 different types, rebates and tax credits. We can talk about who's eligible for those things and really take a macro view. And then the other thing, and Maura alluded to this as well, we also want to talk about stackable credits. And stackable credits are 3 predominantly places where you can stack the IRA credit along with a New York State credit and really maximize your savings. So I'll point those out to you as we go through. So this is a little bit of an eye test, and we debate how we could change it to make it better. But the reality is it allows for some comparison and some totality of the landscape, if you will, that you can't get otherwise. NYSERDA does have a nice version of this online. I think at some point we'll probably copy that and start pitching that, but it's pretty much the same information arranged a little bit differently. What we like about the NYSERDA information is that it will be updated as things change, both from an IRA perspective and a New York State perspective. So, but for now, this is what we're using, and so I'll walk you through it. So, over here on the left-hand side, you'll just see some notes. I'm not going to go through those. These first three columns are really just to tell you what it is, what element of weatherization or electrification or powering it all that we're talking about. And then the meat of this really starts under the blue columns, which is where we talk about the IRA rebates and credits. Over on the furthest most right side, those three columns under green are the New York State programs. So, so what I want to do is talk first about rebates. And as Maura said, these rebates are not yet available. The states were given 12 to 24 months by the federal government to write their regulations. We all really hope that New York, they have transferred the money to the states, but that doesn't help them getting the regulations written. So they are in that process. We had hoped that the regulations would come out this year. It's starting to look less and less like that's likely. So, so that it truly could be until next fall before we get these rebates out. And that's unfortunate because these are the elements that are really targeted at low income and median income families. And so we're hopeful that these programs are launched soon in New York State. So the first column is the low income rebate. The second column that's circled here in the red square or rectangle is the median income. And so basically what these are based on is average median income in New York State, which is $85,300 in Binghamton in this area. And 80% of that, which is what qualifies for low income, for a family of two is $52,000. For a family of four is $64,950. So you must be below those thresholds to qualify as low income. For the median income, it's 80% to 150% of that average median income. And so the higher end of that is somewhere around 130,000. I don't have the exact number. That's Diane math. I can't find the exact number online. But again, these are things that through the process of qualifying for the rebate, those numbers will be checked, and so verified to ensure that people are taking advantage of the right credits. So so you can see that the low income credits are pretty much 100% up to a cap for the various weatherization and appliance credits. And you can see that the median income is 50% of that same amount. And so that literally means that the dollar amount is half as much. So for example, for the weatherization piece, a low income rebate would be up to $1,600. The medium income would be $800. So again, we're looking forward to those programs coming out. And as soon as they do, I think we can start talking about them in greater depth. But I think for now, at least from my perspective, that's probably enough on rebates. From there, I really want to focus on the tax credits. And I'll just mention that the two green columns that aren't circled here are the New York State programs and rebates. There's utility program elements in these two columns. I'm not going to go into those because they're very specific to certain folks. You'll want to know that these things exist and go in, and we have links to all of them in the documents that we're going to send you. You'll certainly want to look at them and see whether or not you or people you are helping qualify for these programs, but I'm not going to go into them because it would take us until probably midnight to go through them all. But I do want to talk about the two tax credits. These are the columns that are circled in the purple, the IRA tax credit and the New York State tax credit. For the IRA tax credit, I'll just point out that everything here starts with 30%, and it's either capped or not capped. Oh, I see we have somebody coming in. So it's either capped or not capped. And I think if you really focus on these, you can tell where the market rate customer, so the customer who doesn't fall into LI or MI, is being kind of led by the IRA. So you can see that geothermal heat pumps, for example, are 30% uncapped. They're really looking for people who are in this situation to put in geothermal if possible. You can see that as well with solar, the same thing is true with residential solar. There's a 30% uncapped IRA tax credit. And I will just point out that with geothermal and with residential solar, if you look over here in the New York State tax credit column, there's an additional 25% up to $5,000. So with either geothermal or with residential solar, you can get 30% uncapped from the federal government and another 25% up to $5,000 for either one of those installations. So major support being provided for doing either one of those. The last thing that I want to talk about here, oops, let's see if I can go back. Yes. The last thing that I want to talk about is cars. And I know that Valdi told me that the folks who would attend this meeting probably have some interest in the fact that this tax credit is going to change to a rebate when we start next year. So I've got a little bit of information on that. But for right now, if you buy a car, it's still a tax credit up to $7,500 from the IRA for a new car, up to $4,000 for a used car. If you take advantage of that, you may also be eligible for a New York State tax credit that goes up to $2,000. So literally there can be a $9,500 savings on a new car. With that, I think I'll move on to the next chart. Again, I know that there's a lot of information on here. I wanted to just point out certain elements of it, and you can do a deeper dive afterward if you're interested. All right. So I wouldn't be a former corporate citizen if I didn't say, gee, you should make a plan. These credits are going to be available for 10 years. So that allows us to really be thoughtful about when we replace appliances, where are they in their lifespan right now, what makes sense to do when. It allows us to really think about weatherizing first if we possibly can, get a nice tight seal around the home and then move into replacing appliances. But none of this is linear, and families are going to need to make different decisions based on the size of their home, the age of their home, the age of their appliances, their means, all of those things. So I remember an old adage that some of you may have heard about, plan the work and then work the plan. And that's basically what we're advising here. And again, here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm just going to show you that based on some work that Rewiring America has done, we put together this planning worksheet that you or others can use to really look at what is the age of my appliances. When do I think is the right time for me to change those out? What do I need to do from a weatherization standpoint? And you'll have that information if you take advantage of the free energy audit that Maura spoke about. That's free to all of us in New York State. All right, with that, I just want to do a little deeper dive into transport. And I thought this was a good kind of an introduction to it, if you will. And I'm always reminded when I see this slide of, because of some personal things, I've spent a significant amount of time in New York City over the last couple of years. And it's very different than when I worked there in the early 80s. And the biggest difference that I find is that I don't have to look out for taxi cabs anymore. I have to look out for electric vehicles, specifically scooters and bicycles. They're everywhere, and it's wonderful. But they're still moving at the fast pace of New York City, so you got to be careful. But we're all seeing, I think, a lot more scooters, a lot more bicycles. Certainly Uber has become a phenomenon, especially for younger generations. We're seeing people opting for alternate transportation, and I think that's a good thing. We need to do more of that. With that said, while we're still driving cars, let's talk a little bit about the federal EV incentives. So like I said, there is a $7,500 credit for a new EV. There is a $4,000 credit for a used EV. That used EV has to be 2 years old, and it has to sell for less than $25,000. It is in the form of a tax credit currently, but it will change to a rebate, and there are income level limits, and you can see those income limits under the used description here on the right-hand side. Similar kind of information for the new cars on the left side. You can see that the income limits are double what they are for used cars. Again, it's a tax credit, but it will change over to a rebate. And here's another one of Maura's links that she likes so well. If you click on this current list of cars that meet the new purchase requirements, you can enter in the type of car that you're looking at purchasing, and it will tell you whether or not it qualifies for the credit. There's a similar thing for the a similar tool on the NYSERDA website for the $2,000 state credit as well. There's also this loophole that we just want to make you aware of. You know, loopholes usually get closed, but we'll see what happens here. But there is a loophole that allows dealers who purchase EVs for leasing to claim the full credit for vehicles. And they can pass those savings on to you. So if you're going to, if you or somebody you know is going to lease a car, it's a good idea to ask the dealer about whether or not this is possible. Again, it's a loophole. It's not guaranteed. You know, we'll have to see whether people are able to take advantage of it or not. And then there is a program for EV chargers as well. I'm trying to move this out of the way. I apologize. Yeah, so that EV charger program is available under the suit.
We can actually see it.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was afraid that you weren't able to see it. So it's a 30% tax credit up to $1,000 for specific populations. If you're interested in taking advantage of this, there is plenty of information out on the IRS website about what qualifies as either one of these disadvantaged or rural communities. There's even a map out there that can show you whether or not you're in one. Okay, and so I think I just jumped ahead. Oh, I've lost a chart. Okay, well, so let me just talk a little bit about the change from a credit to a rebate program. So that will happen as of January 2024 for both new cars and used cars. And I think the IRS has done a really good job of putting this together. We'll have to see how the implementation works out. But basically what they've done is they've put together a website called the Energy Credits Online website. And that's a website where dealers will go to become registered to actually accept your transfer of your credit to them. So the dealer will actually accept your credit as opposed to you having to file a tax form for it. And they'll accept it point of sale. So at the time when you're buying the car. And I think another good thing that they're doing is the IRS is projecting that they will be able to get those funds to the dealer within 72 hours of the sale. And I think that's going to be really important because if they have to wait a long time to get the money, dealers are going to start to complain about it. But the dealer will actually have that responsibility to accept your credit. Now, you don't have to transfer it to them if you don't want to. You can continue to just file it as a tax credit if you want, but I think most people will probably take it as a point of sale rebate. When you actually purchase the car, the dealer will file what's called a time of sale report. In that report, they're going to have to give some information. They are going to need to talk about the and describe the car, certify that is actually part of the rebate program. They're going to, and they're also going to have you enter some information. So you are going to have to attest to the fact that you fall within the income limits that are listed on this chart. And if unfortunately it turns out that you don't meet those income limits, you will have to repay the funds. But for the most part, the dealer is going to do most of the work on this. I think it should be relatively seamless for us. They are saying that they think with this program, they're going to be able to avoid some of the fraud and abuse that they might worry about. Otherwise, you can certainly see how that would be the case. I'm also eager to see some of the data, who's buying cars, where are they buying them, what cars are they buying, et cetera. So hopefully we will be able to they'll share some of that data with us. They are planning to have a consumer information campaign about this. I worry a little bit that in the age of social media and all the other avenues that we have to get information, that it'll get lost, but certainly organizations like ours will be talking about it, and probably Sierra Club as well. So with that, we've just got a couple charts to wrap up here. This is a QR code and a bit.ly that you can click on. This will take you to all of the information that we haven't been able to pitch tonight that we have accumulated. So you can use that. We will send these charts along with a larger deck that is very comprehensive, more described to some extent at the beginning of this pitch. So we'll make sure all that information comes to you and you are able to access these materials. With that, I just wanted to give a little pitch for Climate Reality. Climate Reality has been around since 2006. It is an organization formed by Vice President Al Gore after his Inconvenient Truth movie. He was asked, so what are you going to do now? And he said, I'm going to train a lot of people how to do the same presentation I just did. And so we've been active since 2006. We currently have about 50,000 trained leaders around the world. The last training that we conducted was in South Korea. And we have about 2,000 leaders here in New York. You can get involved by joining a chapter, by taking the next training. We do know that there will be one in New York. We don't know when it will be, but in 2024, we will have a training in New York. And we'd love to have you help us with our climate moment, which is part of this presentation is part of our climate moment initiative. So with that, Maura likes to find funny cartoons or compelling and funny. She shared this one. We wanted to share it with you. And with that, I'll stop sharing and just ask if you have questions.
The one thing before we take questions, I just wanted to say, when Diane was talking about that super wonky chart with all the numbers on it, and she was saying there's actually another chart that does the same thing in a slightly different way, that you will find if you follow that QR code or that URL, which will be in the deck too.
That nice sorted chart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim?
So this is some complicated stuff for people who are just coming to it for the first time, whether it's about a home or a car. Are there new businesses popping up that can help people make good decisions regarding, for example, improving their home's performance? Maybe they could combine information about rebates and credits that are available with the actual construction and actual heating design. It's a lot for a new person to wade through. So I'm wondering if there are kind of comprehensive new businesses that are helping people do this.
Yeah, and I'll give an answer, and then Maura, if you have something else you want to add. A couple things. First, Jim, I would just say we've given you a lot more information than we would give an organization that isn't involved in the climate work. So we've thrown a lot more at you. And then I will say that there are energy hubs that have been created across New York State. Ours in the local area is led out of Cornell Cooperative Extension. I can put you in touch with them if you want to. Jerry probably knows them intimately as well, and maybe throwing something in the chat.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. And so I think the key is that one of the ways we all can be helpful with people, or not all of us, but the Energy Hub can be helpful, is to identify which category they fall into, LI, MI, or market rate, and speak to them about the tax credits and rebates that are probably going to apply to them or could potentially apply to them. So that kind of scopes it down a little bit. And then there are other organizations like ours that are out trying to do education around the IRA. Jerry, are there other recommendations that you might have for organizations, or is the Energy Hub? That's the one I'm the most familiar with. Maura, anything to add?
I think, Jerry, you're muted.
Jerry,
Sorry.
you're muted.
The Energy Hub will be focusing on low and middle income persons. However, they will be able to direct you to a market rate customer services, which operates in a similar manner, but sometimes with different vendors. So I think basically it will be through the Energy Hub, and I just put the our local one for an 8-county region, Southern Tier region, in the chat now. It'll show you their lovely pictures and who you might contact for which county.
We actually have a full-time plus a part-time person staffing that too, so ample coverage.
I don't have too much to add to that comprehensive answer. To some degree, it might be helpful to look into New Yorkers for Clean Power, because they have energy, what do they call them? Energy advisors or something like that. And they're just, you know, it's like just a free consultation, and they can give you some advice too. So that's a possibility. But I have to say, James, I think that is like the greatest idea I ever heard. There should be a business for this to help people navigate all this. The only other thing I would add is that, you know, just based on my experience in the past couple months as I transition, it's just, you know, it is a heck of a lot of work. And every contractor, you know, they might be great contractors, but everybody's got a different, you know, it is a lot to navigate. I mean, unfortunately, there's no getting around it.
There's a question in the chat. I don't know, Maura or Diane, if you can see that.
From Andy.
Yes.
So the same income limits, do you mean? Yes, they will be the same. My understanding is they will remain the same.
Good. I just have a comment. One thing people can do is look up what the energy usage typically is. And there might be some tables for family size too, for a heating system for a certain size house, square footage wise, and maybe even factor in typical insulation, weatherization. I don't know how fine grained these charts might get, and then you can also look for like appliances, like how much does a water heater use to heat X number of gallons of water? And maybe you can estimate how much hot water you use depending on the size of your family. Do you take more showers, less showers? Do you do more laundry, less laundry than the average person? You might be able to look up this type of information. And then also, it was mentioned, I don't know if you caught this, but there are also heat pump clothes dryers available. That was in the charts, and there's rebates or tax credits for that. I forgot which it was, but that's another thing worth considering if you've got a dryer that's already very old, or you are, say you have a fossil fuel dryer and you want to get rid of that to disconnect from natural gas, for example. If you've got a natural gas fired dryer, that's we've got that same situation in our own house. That's the last thing we have on natural gas is our clothes dryer. And so we are researching that at the moment to see whether it makes sense to go to a heat pump clothes dryer or not, or just get an electric dryer. The house is already powered by solar energy that we get from a remote set of solar panels in a community solar farm that a company put together. So we're not as worried about the money, but reducing our energy usage for helping to save the climate might still be worth it for us to consider leaning towards a heat pump type clothes dryer. We already have our water heater electric, and that's not that old, so I'm not going to bother changing that out. But so those are things that you might want to consider in terms of prioritizing your choices. And the other thing I just want to mention is that the estimate on one of the first few slides of what the magnitude of the funding from the federal government is for the Inflation Reduction Act. Initially, when they put this together and enacted it into law, the estimate was about $369 billion, or in round numbers, $370 billion. But then people looked at it afterwards in terms of how it was really written in the details. And it turns out that it's really open-ended for many of these incentives. So if people really make good use of this funding, it could end up being $500 billion or $750 billion and really make a big difference in reducing the nation's greenhouse gas emissions. So please keep that in mind. And also, just politically thinking, I have already seen people vote retroactively to cut some of the funding for the Inflation Reduction Act. Luckily, the way the current Congress and our White House is occupied in terms of the political parties that control things, these votes in the House were not going to take effect. But if things change, which could happen in 2024, keep this in mind too. So don't wait forever to take advantage of these things, because if the wrong political party comes into office in 2024, which they would be sworn in 2025, they may vote to undo much of this. So just please keep that in mind. And the other thing too is, just for your own benefit in terms of the climate, the earlier people make these changes, the better off for the climate things will be. We need to front load this as much as possible. We don't want to keep waiting, 10, 15, 20 years till 2050 to get to net zero. We need to reduce huge amounts early on. The more we reduce early on, the better off we will be in the end. So thank you for me.
No, if you don't mind, I'd like to just comment on a couple of the things, Valdi, because you make such good points. One of them is, the counterpoint, unfortunately, to the tax credits for market rate customers being open-ended is that the rebate programs are not. And the fear is that the rebate programs actually will get eaten up within just a couple of years. So, and the same thing, we're not going to see more funding come to those, if maybe not at all, but it will certainly be a reduced opportunity with a more conservative government. So that's one thing I wanted to say. The other thing is that heat pump dryers are covered under the rebate program. So if you're LI or family is MI, there is a rebate for the dryers and for induction cooktops, but there is no tax credit for them. And I'd love to know how you make out, Valdi, when you do your comparison between high efficiency electric dryers and the heat pump dryer, because we've been really having a debate about it at Climate Reality as to, which should we be recommending? Maybe not either. So we just kind of both now. So, yeah. So thank you for all of that. Jerry?
I have a couple of things to mention.
Yeah.
First, when you're looking for appliances, I would recommend.
Oh, he's muted now.
Oh. Okay. When you're looking for appliances, and make sure that your top 3 favorites, look into whether they can be repaired locally. That can be a big deal, especially with induction range tops. Could be with heat pump dryers and heat pump hot water heaters, all the appliances. Just make sure that whoever sells it, maybe they do it in-house, maybe they use there's a very good repair company, Hargrave or something like that in Johnson City, that does a lot of the repairs, but not all brands. So you need to be brand sensitive in that respect. And on that same note, I find a lot of people, you know, with a lot of talk of figures and rebates and taxes, you know, reductions, so forth, tend to go incentive shopping. What I would recommend is be blind to money totally and find what you and your home needs to make it the most efficient and the way you want it, and then look at the money. And then make sure that all the rebates and all the tax credits and everything you can possibly get are acknowledged by the people doing it. So it's written down and you actually obtain them. So I have one more thing, and that is the order the process. I always recommend the home energy assessment first, because you're going to learn so much from that you can't properly go on without knowing. They do more than a basic assessment. They check your distribution system, your current combustion system, if you use a you know, a heat fossil fuel, to the adequacy of it. They check so many things if they do a proper job, and use a blower door test. You will want a blower door test. For the market rate customer, sometimes you need to pay for that blower door test, and it is worth it, because then you can see the leakage and see where you need to insulate and seal better. And that is like was mentioned by Maura, you know, kind of the bottom line in reducing your load first, you know. So so the energy assessment first, solar, or if it's possible for your house, last, ideally, you know, because you won't know your load until you've done all the electrification, right? So there's other reasons to do it in that stepwise sequence that Maura and Diane mentioned. So thank you. It was a great presentation, both
Thanks,
of you.
Ellen.
I have a quick question.
Joanne.
Rich, can you try that down, please? We had solar installed a few years ago, and then we got the heat pump. So our load is now more. Is it still possible to put more solar on the roof and get the rebates, or is it a one-time deal through NYSERDA?
So I'm sorry, so you already have solar panels on your roof?
Right, we got solar
You need to
about
put more on?
well, we got the solar 5 years ago. We had the air source heat pump about 2-3 years ago. So now we're using more energy in the wintertime with the air source heat pump. Do the rebates still, can we get more solar using the rebates?
Well, I haven't read anything that says you can't add more solar and get the rebates. I have not read anything that has said that.
Okay, and
So
Jerry,
it's a good question to go to go look into.
yeah, and that's a good testament to what Jerry just said, because we did it all backwards.
I'm sorry, but you're not the only one. Everybody did, because solar was actually the first push, you know, and
Yeah.
cold climate heat pumps really weren't out there in properly until a few years later. So we can't blame ourselves for that.
Yeah.
I wonder if the climate hub that your climate hub would be helpful in answering that.
Yeah,
Again, I have not read anything that would not, sorry about the dog, that would not apply. I haven't read anything that says you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
I would think that the folks at Network for Sustainable Tomorrow probably would know the answer to that too, because they have been involved in a lot of this advocacy for this legislation, at least at the state level, and they they explain this stuff to people on a daily basis. So I think that's a good place to check with too. I don't know what their phone number is, but they have a website, they have Facebook presence too. So, please keep that in mind too.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, well, it was wonderful to be here. I'm sure I speak on behalf of Maura when I say that. And we were very excited to present to you because we knew that we would have people who knew a lot in the room. And that always offers the opportunity for us to learn as well as to share what we know. So we really appreciate it. Appreciate being here, Valdi. Thank you.
Thank you,
thanks.
Diane, and
Thank you.
thank you, Maura, both of you. You were excellent. And thank you for all the work you're doing besides giving us this presentation too. Everybody that does something is really helping, and that the word of mouth too, that spreads too. So once people start getting heat pumps on their homes and people take walks in the neighborhood, they walk their dogs or whatever, I know what to look for and I know where they are. And I pointed out to my wife, there's another one, and people talk to each other. So once you get a few in a neighborhood, people will get the idea that, hey, they did it. Let's talk to them. And when they hear a good story that, hey, we're saving money, we got, incentives to help pay for it, and we're happy with the comfort it's providing. And oh, it was a bonus that we got air conditioning too, rather than to have to mess around with window units, which most people have around here. So this is sort of like a snowball rolling downhill. When more and more people get these systems, and the same thing's going to happen with electric vehicles too. When people see, hey, there's a new electric vehicle that's parked on the driveway, neighbors see it, they're going to talk to their neighbor. How do you like it? How was the purchase experience? What's it like to charge it? When people hear good stories and good feedback, that really amplifies the trust factor, and that's the best way for these things to spread and catch hold. And it is already happening with electric vehicles. I don't know if the same thing's happening on the heat pump front, but when I go to Home Depot or a Lowe's, I see that they've got, heat pump clothes dryers, and they've got heat pump water heaters. I never saw that a few years ago, and it was unfamiliar to me. And when I saw it there, I was like, what is this thing? This thing looks strange. And I read the details, and oh, it's a heat pump. And it's like, wow, okay. So this is basically what I'm trying to say, is that as time goes on, the innovation comes up with new things that work better, and all these things work in a similar method. So if somebody knows how to fix a refrigerator or an air conditioner, that principle is what works all of these things. They basically have electric motors. They have a compressor that's driven by an electric motor. They have valves that have electronics that control them. It's not rocket science, but it does require specialized training to do it. And there are lots of these people out here that know how to work on these systems. So they might need some extra training to work on specific appliances, but this is not, something that's so exotic that we can't find a workforce to do it. And this workforce is growing. So please don't think that you're buying something that's so exotic that it can't be fixed and that it's super expensive. The nice thing is that with these incentives, they're coming in the ballpark of conventional systems. And the uptake of this, or in other words, the spread of things, I know definitely electric vehicles, we're already, I think 8% of new vehicles in the United States, or 7.5% is recent data, is electric vehicles. So that's going up on this exponential curve. We're at the point where they won't be strange things to people anymore. So thank you again, everybody, for attending, and I hope that you learned a lot and that you remember a few nuggets that you can explain to other people, that these are worth considering, especially now that there's incentives and more incentives coming within a matter of a few months. So the best thing that you can do is start looking into making a plan, as Diane said, and then going ahead and working that plan. So thanks again to Diane and Maura and everybody else for attending. Have a
Hey,
good night.
Baldy, one thing to add to the program is that next month we have Adam Flint, who's going to look at a little bit more about what New York is doing, whether they're going to be meeting some of their goals, and taking enough advantage of the IRA and all the other incentives that are being offered. So if you can make that meeting, please join us.
Very good.
Can I be invited to that meeting? That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, sure, Diane. We'll send you a personal invite.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to see that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, these meetings are open to everybody. You don't have to be a member of the Sierra Club. Just go to our Susquehanna group of Sierra Club, and you can sign in from there. And you can also view older presentations. We've had these now by Zoom now, I think about 2 years, maybe even a little more. So there's a lot of good presentations that we have recordings of. And you're welcome to use this information for anything that you're doing with the Climate Reality Project too. They're not trademarked or anything or copyrighted or whatever. So please spread the word, and especially the climate change overview that I put out there back in October of 2021. That's a really good overview, and it emphasizes what most of the general public doesn't know about, which is the risk of multi-region breadbasket collapse of crop failures, basically, and that can lead to huge price spikes. You can end up with famine and supply chain disruptions, and you could end up with collapse of governments, and that can happen any year, and that risk constantly keeps getting worse as climate change goes on. And I talk about that in that presentation. It's about 2/3 of the way through, and that's the most depressing part. But the ending is good news, which is part of what was discussed tonight, that you can make a difference through your own changes, with how you live, as well as advocating for positive changes from your government. So again, thank you everybody for listening, and let's keep at it.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much. Bye-bye now, guys. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks, Maura and Diane. That's very, very good to have you.
Thank you. We'll see you at the next meeting, maybe. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll
That's okay.
do.